Hey everyone, Roman Prokopchuk here. So, what's wrong with Elon Musk's tweet today about Ukraine? So, Ukraine, Russia, peace. Basically, a proposed peace plan by Elon Musk, which hasn't been involved in the history or politics of Ukraine, hasn't had any family members killed by the Russians or the Soviet regime, isn't really that astute of how history has transpired and the millions of Ukrainians, Russians under the Soviet Union and under the Russian Empire and now under Putin have killed just because we're Ukrainian to eradicate us as a people, our culture, our language. So basically, Elon Musk's peace plan is redo the elections of the annexed regions under the UN supervision. Russia leaves if that is the will of the people. Yeah, no, this is not annexing anything. This is not holding elections. You forcibly came, invaded, murder, raped, pillaged, stole washing machines and all kinds of other garbage to loot and plunder and take back to Russia like the savages that you are, and not savages in the good way, just uncultured and nothing more than a marauding mob like back in the day in terms of the Mongols or the Huns or any other nomadic steppes people that pillaged and sacked Europe. So there's that. So no, they're not holding anything because you can't just go in. Okay, we'll go in the US and hold elections for Florida, Texas, Tennessee, California, to be their own thing. And if it's a thing, then let's do that. Well, it would be a little bit fairer, but Russian speakers weren't threatened because a lot of Ukrainians speak Russian, and the denazifying thing, half of the Wagner group and half of the inmates that they let out under the Wagner group and other militias are heavily Nazi in terms of influence, in terms of tattoos and methodology. So yeah, that's not a thing. So Crimea, formerly part of Russia, as it's been since 1783 until Khrushchev's mistake. Yeah, Khrushchev didn't make a mistake, number one. So formally 1783. Okay. So 1883, 1980. So for hundreds of years, formally, Crimea was under um, Ukraine. Then obviously there was the Ottoman Empire and other things, and that being there as it was, like let's ask the native people. So the Tatars are actually fighting in terms of battalions under Ukraine to, get their ethnic homeland back. So that's not a bargaining chip. We're not going to appease. We didn't invade Russia. We didn't, cross the border on three fronts with hundreds of thousands of men and basically thought we're going to roll through as liberators in 3 days. We didn't do that, going on October, months and months after the fact. So, yeah, this isn't capitulation in terms of, please stop and we're going to give all of this territory because that's what we do to bullies. So water supply to Crimea assured, that's not necessarily a thing because obviously they haven't cut it off yet, but if they get to the point, or the dam in southern Ukraine that basically feeds majority of the water supply to Crimea, they could basically strangle that situation and use that as a bargaining chip, which I don't think Ukraine would do. But, I mean, they've been to a certain extent providing water to Crimea anyway. Ukraine remains neutral. It's too late for that. Ukraine's not going to remain neutral. Ukraine's not going to remain neutral. Has Russia remained neutral in terms of Bucha, Irpin, Izum, Mariupol, and all these other atrocities that have been found? The killing of civilians, the torture of civilians, the thousands of documented uh, occurrences, the rape of women and children. That's not a forgivable or forgettable thing for Ukrainians around the world and fighting in Ukraine. So yeah, Ukraine isn't neutral because Russia isn't neutral. Ukraine can say, hey, yes, we're neutral, but guess what Russia's going to do? In 5, 10, 15, 20 years, come back for another chunk of Ukraine or another country, and then another chunk. And then when it's eaten all of Ukraine up, it gets to Poland and the Baltic states. And guess what? Those are NATO. And guess what's going to happen? At that point or now, it's going to be an escalated conflict. So the whole thing now that obviously Zelensky a few days ago applied for NATO membership, that was kind of a slap in the face for Putin basically announcing his false referendums. Now, in terms of being admitted into NATO, all the countries or the member countries need to unanimously agree, and that's not going to happen because there's countries like Hungary and other countries that are sympathetic to Russia, and they would veto that. And under their charter, if one country is attacked, they all defend the country within that pact. So, as Ukraine being at war, if it's given NATO membership, as soon as that membership is given, all those countries are theoretically and technically pulled into the war. So I know Ukrainian dignitaries have been pissed off by this tweet. They said, for them to go, kind of kick rocks to Elon Musk. He's been posting several polls, which is really inaccurate. A poll on Twitter, that's the most biased thing that you can actually do in terms of giving an opinion. In terms of polls within Ukraine, so probably I believe the last one was 80 to low 90s in terms of percentage that Ukrainians aren't willing to capitulate any territory. So they're going to keep fighting and gain all of their land back. And stopping isn't an issue because if Russia stops, they retreat, go back home with their tail behind their legs, and apparently, oh well, Vladimir Putin can't be upset and can't suffer such a strategic defeat. Why, dude? 70 something years old. What, little man syndrome, has an ego, can't take an L? Well, you learn from your L's, and at this point, you've done more damage to your country than anyone else in decades. There's two new countries that have applied for NATO membership. So that NATO border has gotten closer to you, literally on your doorstep. So regardless if at one point Ukraine does join NATO or not, you still have NATO countries at your doorstep and at your border. So, and two of them, not even one, but two. So, and if Ukraine stops, there is no Ukraine. If Ukraine right now laid down their arms, Russia would march in, take all of the oblasts that they claim to annex, and then just keep going. Just march through Ukraine and say, hey, well, we're going to assure securities here or make up some other nonsense. How are you going to annex or have a referendum where all of the oblasts that you're trying to annex aren't fully under your control at all? And there's literally fighting in all of them. So how does that actually make sense? So really, Elon Musk should stick to building electric cars and trying to get to Mars. Ukraine is thankful for Starlink, and at one point he had a Twitter battle or back and forth with the Russian government about Putin and so on and so forth. But offering uh, peace deals when he doesn't understand the environment or what's been already lost, the tens of thousands of Ukrainians killed and the massacres already committed within this war, previous wars, previous conflicts with Russia, artificial famines that have killed millions upon millions of Ukrainians. Yeah, well, a lot of people say, well, a lot of those oblasts, there's already a lot of ethnic Russians. Why do you think they're there? They've slaughtered Ukrainians and then recolonized with Russians. Like, learn some history. Or the whole, oh, Biden and Zelensky. This has been going on for hundreds of years. You guys are like ridiculous with the conspiracy theories. Yes, there are some things going on behind the scenes. I've held the top secret federal clearance in the past. There are stuff the government doesn't tell you. There are stuff people that are, would be shocked about if was declassified. And some things are theoretically held from the public for their own protection. But this conflict isn't 2014 to now. It's for the last several hundred years. And if it wasn't Putin, then if his successor was worse than him, then he would have done it. They want to rebuild this glory of the Russian Empire and the Russian Federation. But, if the road keeps going how it's going, the Russian Federation itself will start crumbling. Like Georgia has an opportunity to potentially contend for the land that Russia's took from Georgia in the war with Georgia. I mean, obviously Chechnya right now has a little puppet warlord, but Chechnya for the hundreds of thousands of civilians that Russia has killed over the years, warring with Chechnya and other areas like Dagestan, and all the ethnic groups that now are really thrown into the war with Ukraine and mobilized, basically ethnic minorities as cannon fodder. Only a certain amount of people were drafted and taken from, St. Petersburg and Moscow areas. They're all coming from rural areas, Far East, and other areas with their ethnic, tribal people, and nobody's going to bat an eye because Russia has an issue with, mistreating its minorities as well in terms of not really caring about the rural areas. So, like I said, Elon Musk should stay to building electric cars and trying to get to Mars. But these solutions of peace, this would not be a peace. This would be actually a dagger in the heart of Ukraine and really a slap in the face of Ukraine for everything that we've endured during this war. So we thank for everyone in terms of the support of all the countries that have supported us, and like I said, Elon for what he's provided. But the little ongoing and back and forth tweets, maybe you're trying to be helpful, maybe you're not. Obviously, you're very intelligent, very wealthy, have Asperger's, so maybe the emotional connection isn't there in terms of empathy, but it has not been taken well. Slava Ukraini, Heroyam Slava, Slava Nazi, God bless.